Hello and welcome to GameSpot After Dark episode 154. Why can I help?
I'll fix it. Don't worry. This shouldn't be happening for everyone else. It's just us.
Okay.
Sweet. I am your host, More Sane. John Luke is currently running around the room to fix something. Thank you, John Luke. We're also joined in the studio by Jordan Remake.
What up, what up? You sounded like God there for a second.
Yeah,
it really freaked me out.
I kind of liked it. I was like, oh, is this what power feels like? My voice bellowing and echoing out through the internet pipes. Jean-Luc, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm here. I'm enjoying this beautiful temperate weather that we have in
Are you bragging?
Weather.
Are you bragging?
I don't know. What are you talking about? This is just a normal day in San Francisco.
The rest of the world seems to be like straight up on fire right now.
We're all just
And we're like, I came out this morning of my apartment.
it got a little cold.
I was like, oh, it's cold today. And I messaged Lucy. I was like, it's cold today, so wrap up warm.
Sounds nice.
It is 60 right now.
Yeah.
Insane.
And like, meanwhile, just around us, like everything's just literally on fire. People are just like melting.
It's 80 degrees where I live. And that's like cold right now.
That is the thing, is that the second you leave the city, it immediately will jump up like 10 degrees.
Witchcraft.
Never leave the city. Easy.
Yeah.
Just do that, Jordan. Just don't leave the city.
I need to sleep at some point. I need to go home and sleep.
There have been multiple times where I will leave to go catch the bus and be like, great weather, t-shirt, perfect. The second I get off the bus in the city,
like freezing.
It's freezing. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I'm enjoying the temperate weather as a Brit. Meanwhile, the fellow Brits in Britland are just like,
No.
There's a video of a man just in a bin full of like cold water or something
my God.
and ice, like literally in a bin, like a wheelbarrow bin. And people are like, there's a video of someone like talking to him and being like, why are you in a bin? You're not allowed to be in a bin. And he's like, I can be in a bin if I want to be in a bin.
Good for him.
It's quite funny. Just the three of us this week. Lucy is unavailable this week, working from home. So we're doing this live and direct. If you are watching live on twitch.tv/GameSpot, thank you. If you haven't already, hit the old follow button. Improves the numbers, which makes people in suits happy.
Makes the numbers go up.
Makes the numbers go up. That's what I say in my chat, yeah. And if you're watching on podcast services, thank you also. Hit the, subscribe, review. I don't know, whatever you do on podcast stuff.
It's a different button.
It's a different, hit
Every
the other
time.
button. So let's jump into the part of the show where we talk about what we've been up to. We're going to go with Jean-Luc to begin with, because Jean-Luc has got a veritable smorgasbord of things.
You have so many games.
Yeah. So you guys talked about a lot of really cool games last week. You talked about Escape Academy. You talked about PowerWash Simulator. Tam, you talked about is it Poinpy? Is that how you say it?
Poinpy?
Poinpy? The Netflix mobile game. So I played all of those. Played everything you guys recommended. And those are all extremely good games.
We did not lie to you.
No, you didn't. I think I did Escape Academy in like one sitting. Because it's not a very long game.
Did you play it solo?
No. I played it with Georgia. Yeah. No,
the correct way to play.
I heard from one Jordan Remake that's the correct way to play that game.
Yeah.
It's really good. Yeah. It really scratches that like. So our favorite game to play together is probably Overcooked, because I think that is a game where it's like the ultimate like relationship tester. Not just in
if
like
you can survive Overcooked, your relationship can survive anything.
Yeah. So like I hear all these horror stories from people being like, oh yeah, I tried playing it with my girlfriend or my partner and we had to stop because it was just causing problems. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. You and me, we were in perfect synchronization. We were drift compatible. I think this means that it was meant to be and that we're just a flawless couple. So that's kind of how I feel when we were playing Escape Academy, where we were just like in sync with each other. And it's just like, okay, great, you go over there. What do you see? And then we're just like communicating back and forth, telling each other exactly like, I got this key. Great, I think it goes over here. And it was just so much fun.
I assume you played just split screen on one console as opposed to each one of you.
No, actually, we did a computer next to each other, which was interesting because I didn't expect that it would also still show you the split screen the whole time.
You currently can't turn split screen off. So.
Well, it is really useful because you can see what the other person sees, so they can just stare at like a key code or something, and then you can just like put that in. Sometimes it didn't work right though. It would like freak out, so you would like open up the menu and it would show a different item than the one they were on. So I'd have to like kind of look over and at her actual screen.
I've seen a few people on social media posting that they want like quote unquote hard mode for that game where it doesn't do the split screen even on online multiplayer, so you really have to like listen to the other person like trying to describe like what they're seeing. I'm like, I feel like it's just so easy.
I don't think it would make it that much harder, personally.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because we were already doing that. Like, just the screen was nice, but at least for us, it was like, oh, this is not gonna
It does kind of make the whole passing items back and forth, the mechanic feel superfluous. Like, when I was playing that co-op, I'm like, I don't think I ever once was like, oh, I should pass this item off to Dave or to Nat, who I sometimes play with. And it's like, no, I should just hold on to it, and whenever this item needs to be used, I'll walk over and do
exactly.
The thing.
Yeah, I think we did it like I think I accidentally gave her something one time. I was like, "Oops, didn't mean to do that."
Yeah, I'm still haven't played it, but I'm excited to check it out. Jacob McCall in the Twitch chat says we had to stop playing Overcooked 2 because my partner wanted to play the game again after the platinum on PS4.
Wait, after the platinum?
Done the platinum and was like, need more.
For Overcooked or Overcooked 2?
Well, there's also...
You have to get like 3 stars on every level.
Not only is there Overcooked, there is Overcooked 2, and there is like a complete edition that combines both games together. We have played all 3 of those to 100%. And Georgia was the exact same way. We would beat it, and she'd be like, I want more. Let's get more. We have to do it. We never did... We 3-starred everything. We didn't 4-star everything. The 4 stars... in that game, which I think only unlock after you beat it, are stupidly difficult. And I was like, okay, we're not that good. But we did 3-star everything, so as far as I'm concerned.
Do you have to 4-star it all, or 3-star for platinum?
3-star for platinum, 4 stars like it's like the like hidden red medals and neon white, where it's just like, this is for the like extreme gamers. And they're really, really hard. I think we got like 1 just by like accident, and we're like, we're not trying that.
Yeah, that sounds messed up. I'm trying to figure out what other games could work as a kind of similarity for Georgia, like a similar thing for that. I can't think of many that are
like specifically relationship stressors or games like Overcooked.
Games like Overcooked that
games
are
that
inadvertently
they like require a level of like cooperation that is incredibly satisfying for us.
What's the like stop talking and blow
don't talk and nobody or like
that would actually
someone explodes or whatever.
Yeah, that would actually be a really fun one.
Basically, games where like you have to actually open your mouth and talk to the other person, and if you don't, you're going to lose.
Yeah, that would actually be a good one, because I think that game's in VR as well. Yeah. Is that on the Quest 2?
Ooh, maybe. I'm not sure.
If it's not, it should be.
It should be.
That would be really fun.
In the Giant Bomb chat, Rentaro Sensei says, "Love is in a dangerous space-time."
That's a pretty good one. I haven't played that one. That might be a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Blessing was telling me about Operation Tango, where like one of you is a spy and the other one's a hacker.
Yes.
So it's like one of you has the specific skills to be able to like open certain doors and like hack into cameras to see where the guards are, and the other person has like the actual skills to like do things in the field. So you have to like communicate with one another.
We wanted to play that one because it was like a PlayStation Plus like freebie for that month, but it did not have any split screen. So I was like, you need a second PlayStation. And I was like, no, I'm not going to play it. So we just were like, maybe later.
Jacob McCourt says Moving Out, though Jacob does specify that he didn't like it.
We did play Moving Out, and which is kind of like Overcooked, where you're trying to like move furniture. You're like a bunch of movers, and you have to move furniture like out of the house into into like the moving truck. It's it's physics based, so I think there's kind of you end up fighting against the game a little bit, where it's more just like.
It's not like Overcooked, where it's like a very like specific machine, where it's like if I do this task over and over again, I will just be a robot.
There is a precision to Overcooked that is incredibly satisfying. Where Move Out, you're just like, okay, we just end up like if we could just move a little bit,
pivot.
and so yeah, we just didn't enjoy playing it as much, and I think we only played a couple levels, and we're just like, it's okay, but it wasn't really doing it.
What would this genre of game be called? Like
relationship stresses. Yeah. The thing about them is they require quite a high level of literacy and like proficiency with video games.
Sure.
Right? Like you got to be good at using a controller and kind of like playing video games. I wonder if there's anything like that would be cool. Kind of like, hey, I play this with my friend or my partner, but they have not a lot of kind of
Did you
proficiency.
ever play it was super popular for a hot minute. What the fuck is it called? It's a mobile game where you can connect up to like 4 or 5 people, and you are all in a spaceship that is
Among Us?
No, not Among Us. You're all in a spaceship that is constantly like in danger of exploding, and everyone has a task they need to do.
This sounds like Among Us. Are you sure it's
not? No. It's
you gaslighting us.
And then an assassin shows up. But everyone has like a bunch of tasks. Like you'll have a little switch or you'll have this, but you'll also have instructions. And so your instruction doesn't line up to your task, so you'll need to... Space Team, yes.
Yeah, thank you to Fatbot and Giant Bomb.
Space Team is fantastic. That was really popular back when I went to PAX a lot, which was great because everyone in PAX would play it, and it would be like the perfect game. Like you'd be waiting in like the 2-hour line to get into the Giant Bomb panel, and then you would just make friends with all the people around you because everyone would just be playing Space Team.
Hell yeah.
Great game. Highly recommend it. That's a good one. That's a fun, like, kind of cooperative, stressful game.
Yeah. Relationship stress seems like the right tag for that name. It does make a lot of sense. But yeah, I still not played Escape Academy. I do want to check it out. I think I'm going to play it with Lucy once she's ready.
It's not that long.
It's like 4 hours, right?
That's why I'm really happy that they're coming out with more
4
levels.
hours, if that. Like, we literally plowed through it in one setting. We were just like, just keep going.
I was saying, if you ignore the dialogue, you just like blast through.
Yeah, the dialogue's okay. It was fine.
Yeah, it's kind of just like set dressing there to kind of like just be like, hey, you're getting better at being a student at this academy.
Yeah.
Like,
I liked some of the character design.
Oh yeah, the character design is really cool.
It's got good art and stuff.
I really like the computer teacher.
Yes, the computer teacher's good. I like the little rat.
The little rat.
What was his name? Oh, I forget his name.
Is it Sebastian? No,
but he liked donuts, and I was like, he's good. I like him. And yeah, they're doing DLC where they're going to add, I think they're doing 2 DLC packs with 5 levels each, so eventually they'll have twice as much content.
It's like one at the end of this year, I think, and then another one early next year, I think. Yeah.
So very, very big fan of that.
Yeah, I'm excited to check it out. What else have you been playing?
I got really into Poinpy, right?
Poinpy, yeah.
Poinpy. That game is hella good. Yeah. That is like the perfect little mobile, like just one more try kind of game.
Really intuitive to play as well.
Yeah, I mean, like from the person who made Downwell, so like that totally tracks. Where it just like it's that easy, like pick up and play. Yeah.
Does it get more complex as time goes on? Because it feels.
How far did you get?
I played like basically a couple of levels, and it was a lot of like bounce off the walls, collect the coins, and just keep going upwards. So as you further you go, I struggled a lot at the beginning, and then I eventually was like, oh wait, you can collect little like power-ups that kind of like give you different abilities. So there's stuff like, oh, every time you smash a pot, it'll have a fruit in it, or hitting an enemy will have a fruit. The strategy comes from chaining like the enemies. You want to be hitting enemies constantly because every time you hit an enemy, it gives you back a jump. Yeah. And so you're just bouncing that. And if you can do it right, you can go forever. And then like the pro strat, once you get to the higher levels, the pro strat is to like once you get really good at chaining it, is you want to chain at the very, very beginning, because the beginning it's like you just got to collect like, oh, 1 fruit and it's easy. And so then
you get every bonus fruit you collect gives you more to your level. So if you chain at the very beginning and you get a really high chain, you can go from like level 1 to level like 10 in like one shot, like really quickly.
Okay.
So that's the pro strat there.
Yeah.
Also, did you do any of the like little puzzle side stuff that they have?
No.
So if you go to the right at the beginning on the main menu, there's like this little chair you can sit on, and there is a series of, I want to say 5 or 6 like puzzle style like little stages where it'll give you a very limited number of jumps, and it's like collect all the fruit using only this many jumps. And so it's like just kind of like a fun little bite-sized version of it where you kind of have to like think more about like, ooh, like how am I gonna like precision do this exact kind of like stage, and they're not super difficult, but I found them to be like a really fun break from like doing the normal mode of like, okay, I'm gonna take a break, do a couple of puzzles, and then go back to it. So yeah, highly recommend it. It's amazing how like polished it is, and it's also really nice to play a mobile game where there's no ad, there's no microtransaction nonsense. Like it's just a video game.
It's like early days mobile game.
Yeah, it gave me that vibe, and it's like the only reason it can be that is because like Netflix is funding it, and it's like tied to that, which is like I kind of hate that, like, you know, you have to have a Netflix account to play like that game, but at the same time I'm also like,
no ads.
Yeah, but like the game I'm getting is like a really nice premium experience for mobile, and I
still find it so funny that this dude was just like, what if I just make the same game but you're going in the opposite direction? And it works, and it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's like complete reverse. It's also like super colorful versus just like the kind of one color.
White,
yeah,
I like it a lot. I'm definitely going to play more. I'm going to play another Netflix game that you've also been playing.
Oh yeah,
Into the Breach.
Into the Breach. I loaded that up on my iPad.
Such a good game.
What a good experience.
Yeah. How much did you play of the original?
I played. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm kind of shit at Into the Breach. I'm not very good at it. But I did play, I want to say, a good like 5 or 6 hours. I don't think I ever beat it, but I just had a really
last level of that game is really hard.
No, I think I got to like the last level, and then I was like, fucking, I can't do this. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But
because there's multiple there's multiple phases to that last fight, and if you mess up at any point, it's like, well, I'm back at the beginning. I have to like get back to that point. I would say as soon as I beat it, I don't think I ever tried to beat Into the Breach a second time.
FTL was the same thing for me, where I would always get to the end of FTL and then just fucking crash and burn horribly because I could never actually beat it. But either way, it's a really fun, relaxing game to play. Like, I like that. You can really, it works really well with the iPad because you can just kind of put it away and then just like grab it and be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, play a few turns.
Just do a few turns, really, really mull on it, marinate on what you want to do next and then come back to it.
What's your go-to in Into the Breach? Are you like close range, sniping, trying to knock people like into stuff, like a mixture of different strategies?
I find knocking to be the best because my go-to is knocking people either like off the land into the water or knocking them into the little the enemies that are like coming out from under the ground because then they just take care of themselves. And so I try and use that a lot as my strategy.
Yeah. So people who are wondering, like, this is obviously an older game.
Yeah.
But it's
2018?
2018.
Yeah.
So like it's now back, published through Netflix on mobile, and it's got a bunch of new stuff in it. 5 new squads, 15 new achievements for the squad.
You can select them on the menu, so if you aren't familiar with the game, you can like just play the base version first to get used to it before you activate the new stuff, or you can just activate the new stuff right away, which is cool.
12 new missions, 3 new bonus mission goals, 4 new pilots, 10 new random pilot abilities.
God, I completely forgot that there was the whole like pilots with their special abilities aspect of that game. That game is so good.
So good.
It's so good.
I love teasing Ed about the fact that he gave it a 9 out of 10 because he's so mad that he gave it a 9 out of 10.
We might write history with that one.
Every time news about that game comes up, he's like, I should have given it a 10.
The port's great. The touch controls are super intuitive and straightforward. Like it feels really natural to play. I saw a couple people on the App Store saying how I guess like it wasn't like working for them, or it would crash, or like it wouldn't recognize their account, and being like, oh, this is the only Netflix game that's been giving me grief. I had no problems. I loaded in right away. But hopefully they sort out whatever issues. I assume
that they'll fix it just because this is a big get for them.
Yeah.
I wonder if you can find it easily now, because when I was trying to find it, it was so
That's
difficult.
the one thing I do not like about that Netflix experience is when you load it up on mobile. So when I load it up on my phone, I had to scroll. There's no just like game section at the top because it says like movies, TVs, and like search, but it doesn't say games. I had to scroll through and it would be like, oh, here's all your like anime you like, here's your comedies to recommend, and then in the middle it just had like, here's some games, and I was like, that's a really weird way to present that. Like people are gonna miss that.
I almost wonder if it's just how many games does Netflix have? Because I clearly remember there like being a time where like that's how the anime on Netflix was, and then after a while they did add an anime section when Netflix finally had like 30, 40 different anime.
Well, the other weird thing is when I finally found the game section, it only showed me like 5 or 6 games, and it didn't show me Into the Breach. And I was like, oh, is it not out?
Right now, if you search for Into the Breach, you get nothing.
So I had to search Into the Breach, and then it popped up.
I don't get that.
But this was also on iPad. On iPad, I didn't even get that game thing, like scrolling. Like, because the iPad app looks kind of different than the like iPhone mobile app. So I don't know. They need to make that like more upfront. It needs to be an option right at the top.
If you
just
search
like games.
If you search for Into the Breach, you get nothing. If you search for Netflix, you get nothing. If you search for Netflix Into the Breach, you get the game.
Are you trying to do this on the like App Store?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I was actually doing it within the Netflix app itself. Is how I was doing it.
Yeah, and then like you can also search for Netflix games, and then it will give you a couple of games like.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I was doing this in the Netflix app, which also
there's a few games. There's a Stranger Things game. There's a Netflix Exploding Kittens game, Crispy Street. I don't know what that is, and Into the Dead 2.
Does Netflix do any cross promotion like on between their games and TV shows and movies? Because I was just thinking like, oh, it would probably like be really smart if they're like, because they have like a Pacific Rim anime on Netflix. It's like, oh, they should like recommend like as one of the things, like when it's like, oh, you're done with the show, you should watch this. It's like one of the things should be like, or you should play Into the Breach. And it's like if they have like a Stranger Things game, it should be like when you're done binging through Stranger Things, it's like, we think you might like playing
the Stranger Things game.
Yeah.
Like, that would make sense.
I bet we'll get there. I think that's the point. I think that's what they're building towards currently. Can't be long before.
Because they have the Oxenfree folks right now making a game for them. I'm sure like whatever game they make will be this huge like drama narrative thing.
Horror kind of teen. Yeah, exactly.
That like it's like, oh, you watched like these types of shows on Netflix, you might like to play this video game, or vice versa. We see that you've put 10 hours into this game. You might want to watch these TV shows or movies.
I'm now thinking, I'm like putting it together in my head. I'm like, did they buy the Oxenfree people just so that they can have them make a Stranger Things game afterwards?
Maybe.
Like,
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they make their own new game and it has a TV show.
Considering how much the first Oxenfree is like Stranger Things.
I feel like there's a weird alternate reality where like Telltale lasted long enough for Netflix to buy them, and then they're like, you just make video game versions of all of our TV show properties. Like I played the Bridgerton Netflix game,
honestly,
like made by Telltale. Yeah, exactly, right? Doesn't that sound good?
I'm like, oh, this is just like a choice-driven adventure, like in high society and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm in.
Absolutely.
It'll happen. It'll happen eventually.
It will.
I think it's only a matter of time before like games have TV shows and TV shows have games in the Netflix ecosystem.
Yeah, we do kind of exist in this weird period where I feel like cross-pollination between like brands and games are becoming more common than it ever used to be. You know, I guess we used to have the licensed movie games, but those kind of died. But all the like TV show stuff, I feel like.
But so many people are like, oh, you like these books, you probably like this movie, or like, oh, you like these types of movies, you probably like these books. But we very rarely get the cross-pollination between games and other things. Like,
port Gwent over to Netflix.
Yeah, Gwent TV show. Yeah. Let's go. It's like what's that chess game TV show?
It's just Yu-Gi-Oh.
It's Queen's Gambit, but like
I love that there's a Queen's Gambit board game, and people are like, "Do you people forget like what?"
I would love if Netflix like hired an anime studio to make like a Gambit like anime, and it's just a Yu-Gi-Oh ripoff. Like it's just like, oh, that would be so good.
Yeah, Gwent as an anime would be so good as a Yu-Gi-Oh clone.
It's like a Yu-Gi-Oh clone.
Yeah,
Holy
just
shit.
What's his name? Geralt as Kaiba or some shit. He can't be Yugi. It's got to be someone else.
Well, no, Siri would be Yugi, right?
Siri would have to be Yugi. That would be good. That's now
just writes itself.
That's our next feature: casting the Yu-Gi-Oh movie using only Witcher characters.
Has there ever been a Yu-Gi-Oh live action movie?
There must be.
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Like, I know that there are like live plays and stuff like that in Japan. There must be a movie.
There's a Yu-Gi-Oh movie teaser trailer that came out in 2022 apparently, which I don't know what that is.
What? No way. We would have written about it if that was true.
That seems like a fake.
Yeah, that's like a fan project.
It doesn't look like there is one. Yu-Gi-Oh live action film.
No one wants to actually figure out how to bring Blue Eyes White Dragon to the big screen.
Yu-Gi-Oh live action film.
I mean, they did. They made the movie, the animated movie.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist Kingdom is a 2027 action adventure film. What?
2027?
Yeah.
So like they're planning it for 5 years from now.
This feels wrong. This doesn't seem real. It looks kind of. This
suspicious.
Looks like someone just added this to a fandom page and is like, okay, Justin Timberlake as Yami Yugi.
I was about to ask who would play your live-action Yu-Gi-Oh cast.
Okay, so Yami Yugi, played by Justin Timberlake.
Okay,
Perfect.
sure.
Okay.
Let's see who else we got.
Who's Kaiba?
We got Aaron Taylor Johnson, who is in. I don't know what he's in. What is he in? Movies. Let's hit movies.
I don't know who that is.
He's in Kick-Ass, Kick-Ass 2.
Who be a good Kaiba?
He plays Yugi Muto. Joey Wheeler, played by Alex Pettyfair.
I don't know any of these people.
Who are these people?
I don't know any of these people.
Alex Pettyfair is in...
You see, they're people that they're not famous now, but like 5 years from now, they'll be like big hit names.
Yeah. Amanda Seyfried as Tia Gardner.
I want like Tom Holland as like Yugi. I want Tom Holland wearing a ridiculous fucking wig.
So you want to know who they cast as Kaiba?
Who they cast as Kaiba?
Chris Pine.
Chris Pine. That's an odd choice.
Yep.
I was gonna say Robert Pattinson. I don't know if that will work either.
Liam Hemsworth as Duke Devlin. Emma Stone as My Valentine.
Emma Stone as My Valentine? No.
Emma Watson as Serenity Wheeler.
Hell no. Son brother in the chat is like Cumberbatch as Kaiba.
Actually, Benedict Cumberbatch as Kaiba would be
yes
incredible.
Who do you think they
absolutely
casted as Maximilian Pegasus?
I could not guess.
I mean,
based on this list,
Mads
like
Mikkelsen
throwing darts at a board.
No. Absolutely not.
I mean, he was in the Mummy movie, so clearly.
Who do you think they casted as Odeon or Rashid, the bald guy?
I don't know.
Dwayne Johnson.
Okay, sure. God. What about Bakura? I think it's Bakura.
Wait, hold on. Where's Bakura?
Apologies to our audience that doesn't know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm just listing off all these character names.
This is a podcast now.
we got Captain Stephen Hiller. Do you remember that character?
No.
President Thomas Jane Whitmore.
Kind of.
Bill Pullman. Jeff Goldblum.
What? Because he played the president in Independence Day. Like
yes.
None of these. The rest
terrible
of
casting.
Seem really shit. Yeah, that's all the main.
Could you imagine if like 5 years from now, like this actually
happens?
Yeah.
Like Tom Cruise as Maximilian Pegasus.
If you want to watch a really good video, I was watching this the other day for some reason. Is Mother's Basement's video on the world building of Yu-Gi-Oh?
I haven't seen that one yet.
It's an older one, but it's a really good one where he just kind of gets into like how completely insane the world of Yu-Gi-Oh is, because the entire economy of the planet revolves around a card game. Yeah. Like, it's all everyone does. Like, everyone just plays Duel Monsters. Like, all other games are just like outlawed, or like no one fucking plays them. They've all died because no one cares, because like everyone just plays Duel Monsters. to the point where like the entire city's economy and there's like academies made for people to like have a professional career in Duel Monsters. And I'm like, but also they're like, yeah, but also like they pretty much solve all of our energy problems and everything's it's like a utopian society, but just everyone plays card games.
Do they ever explain why it's a utopian society? Is it just because
everyone's busy playing card games?
Well, because like the card game is like based on the like ancient Egyptian like monster game, which has some like kind of soul magic, and I guess at some point they harness the soul magic to like create limitless energy or something. I don't know. That happened in like
harness the power of God. Why would we need nuclear energy?
That happened in like 5Ds or Zexal, like long after I stopped paying attention to Yu-Gi-Oh.
Jesus. All right. You've also been playing PowerWash Simulator.
I've also been playing PowerWash Simulator.
Do you like it?
Yeah, it's really good. It's also playing that one co-op where we just like we don't even really talk to each other. We just like sit next to each other
and clean
and just clean, and that's like all we do. But it's like really, and then we just like an hour goes by, and then we just look at each other and go like, yeah, look how clean that was. Yeah, let's go.
Are you doing the big ones or like the kind of smaller or middle sized ones?
No, we've been going through everything that they've been giving us. We just hit like a big stretch where they had us do a bunch of different cars and trucks, and I think we're about to do. Oh, well, what are we doing now? We like cleaned up a mansion, and I forget what the next one is, but like we're at the point where there's a lot of graffiti, and you really got to get like the powerful hoses out to scrub it clean.
We did the golf course on UPF. Last week, and we got it to 99%, but we couldn't find that final
right.
percent.
Yes,
there was like fucking 6 of us trying to find this 1%, and eventually it got to the point where I was like, listen, I'm going. I'm shutting this game down. I'm done. I'm leaving. And like I texted Lucy a little while later, and I was like, "Are you still at it?" And she was like, "Yep, we're still at it. Just can't find that 1%."
Could you imagine the real life equivalent of that? Of just like 3 people just like moving around this thing? It's like I know that there's like still one last piece of grime somewhere here.
Mm-hmm.
Someone in the chat in the Giant Bomb chat said, "No one." Zombie Pie said, "No one tell Tam the truth," which leads me to believe something happened in the rest of that.
I wasn't sure if I should spoil it, but I
what
guess
does happen.
Well, they did. They did actually do it. Yeah.
Well, I was annoyed when Lucy replied to me. I was like, "No, we couldn't find it." I was like, "Damn, what a bunch of losers." So,
no, they all conspired to lie to you on the stream. Yeah,
you hate to see it.
Lucy was like, "What should I tell them?" And they're like, "Tell them we never did it."
Oh, okay. That's fine. Well, now I feel better about them because I was like, at the time I was like, well, how absolutely pathetic of them. They couldn't find that 1%, but now I feel better that I am on a team of gamers again.
Yeah, they didn't even play any other games during that UPF. They just kept playing PowerWash Simulator for like 2 hours.
There was a bit where I was watching, like I was doing other stuff, and I could like I had the kind of audio off, but I was like watching from this. Eventually, I was like, I'm done with this. I've got stuff to do. But I'm glad they got that 1%. But yeah, it's such a fun game. Are you playing it on PC or Steam Deck?
I'm playing on PC. I didn't even think about Steam Deck. I should.
It actually works okay with the touchpad thing.
Yeah. Although I guess I am playing it on the Xbox app because Game Pass free. So I guess I'd have to buy it again if I wanted to do Steam Deck.
Have you tried putting Game Pass on Steam Deck yet? Because there is a way to do it. I wish they would. I hope that one day Phil Spencer is just like, let's just make a native app for this thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's trying. I'm sure Xbox is reaching out to Valve and it's like, hey,
please.
Yeah, I haven't put it on proper. I did try and put on the like cloud, Xbox Cloud support on there. And actually like I ran into some issues where like an option that was supposed to be there wasn't, and I was like, oh, I don't know what's going on.
It's wild that you can press one button on a website and put every video game console ever onto that Steam Deck.
Yeah.
But if you want to play a current modern system, like or use a current and modern,
can't be done.
It's like
they're like, do you want to play Metal Gear Solid 4 on here? And you're like, just hit this button and gotta go.
You want to play every single video game from the Super Nintendo on here?
Yeah. And then Bungie's like, oh, but you can't play Destiny 2 on it. And I'm like, fucking why not?
Does Destiny 2 not work?
No, it doesn't work because I think because of the cheat engine stuff, there's like some weird back end thing where like, so they just don't let you load it up, and they're like, if you try, they straight up told people, like, if you try and hack to make it work, we will ban your account, because I think they're worried about infrastructure. However, there are more games now that use cheat engine that are slowly adding Steam Deck support, so I think devs are figuring it out. So I am hopeful that Bungie eventually figures it out, because
I would be very surprised if that one video game that they're desperately trying to make you like live your life inside at all times doesn't do something to make it like it feels like too much sense. So you play Destiny anywhere, everywhere.
Dude, I just need to grind a couple of bounties for the day, like
while I'm on the toilet.
Exactly. Absolutely, 100%.
What else have you been playing on your Steam Deck out of interest? You've got one as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are you playing on it? Other than
I'm still playing Spike Air Volleyball.
My man spends $500 on a fucking state-of-the-art portable console.
And I'm just playing a demo.
And he's playing a demo.
I'll be honest, a lot of my Steam Deck experience right now is just like downloading a game, trying it, and being like, oh, that works. So I was like,
the Steam experience.
I put Okami on. It was like, ooh, Okami HD looks pretty good on this. Okay, all right, I'm good. What was it? Bloodstain, Symphony of the Moon? No, Bloodstain.
Night?
Ritual of the Night.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Moon, Night, Mystery.
That runs all right?
Yeah, that runs all right. That was pretty good, which is cool because I remember, wasn't the Switch version of that game like
version was
a
not
little?
great.
It was doo-doo.
Yeah. I had to hitch like maybe
That's
once
the
or
version I
twice.
bought as well, and I started playing and I was like, oh, fuck.
It's a bummer because it's a good game. But yeah, it works great on Steam Deck, so I was like, ooh, gonna play a little bit of that. I haven't found a game that I've like properly like sat down and be like, I'm gonna play this from start to finish. Oh, I did play a little bit of Dead Space 2 on the Steam Deck.
Okay.
That plays extremely well on the Steam Deck, and I was like, that one I actually played
for Callisto Protocol.
it was actually because of Callisto Protocol, and I ended up playing through the entire like intro hospital section, so a good hour, and I was like, ooh, this is actually
probably the
good.
creepiest part of that game.
Yeah, I think
returning to the Ishimura is also pretty creepy. I
think like 360 PS3 era PC ports
work the
best because those games were all designed around like 720p resolution anyway. So they all look really good on the Steam Deck. Like Dead Space 2 looked phenomenal. I was like, this game holds up extremely well.
Are you playing Vampire Survivors?
I downloaded it. I haven't started it yet.
Once you start playing that, you won't play anything else.
Does that work well on Steam Deck?
It's great on Steam Deck, yeah.
I almost downloaded it. I looked at the Steam page. I was hovering over the button.
I think I'm going to download Alpha Protocol and take that for a run.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's been a while since
I played that'd be a weird one.
So I'm interested to see how it works. And that is an underrated game as well.
I've actually never played it.
It's good. It's good fun. Like, it's weird, obviously.
Right, yeah.
But if you're like looking for an RPG, you know, from Obsidian or whatever, that you want to sink your teeth into, that you probably haven't already played, chances are you've probably not played Alpha Protocol.
Yeah.
So that's a good one to try and mess around with a bit. It's fun.
Oh, I also downloaded Stardew Valley because I want to put mods on it, which you can do apparently on the Steam Deck for Stardew Valley.
Yeah.
Because our good friend of the show, Callie Plaguey, has a entire Notion sheet of all the mods she uses for Stardew Valley, and I was like, please send that my way. I would like to download all of those.
Wonderful.
Callie has like the heart and soul of a guides writer. Like I know that's like wasn't her beat, but like just the note taking that she does when she plays games is
the cataloging strong.
Oh, Zombie Pie in the chat says, in the Giant Bomb chat says, the completed fan translation of Shin Megami Tensei PS1 was released today.
Whoa!
To do some illegal stuff.
What was that released on?
I don't know.
But that Shin Megami Tensei 1, that's a SNES game, right?
PS1.
Oh, PS1.
Yeah, I think it's PS1.
I thought there was a Shin Megami Tensei game on like the Super Famicoms.
I'm not sure.
Because PS1 is like Persona 1 and
Oh, it looks good as well, the translation.
Ooh.
Looks very good. I might have to check that out for a little bit.
I have like EverDrives and stuff, so like I can like put like fan translations of like games like and play them on the original hardware, like on a CRT, which is just like incredibly satisfying. Like I was playing some like Persona 2 Innocence in the original PS2 version, and I was like, yeah, this is great.
The SNES version got an English translation, but it's slightly different.
Got it.
Okay. You've also been playing Stray.
Yeah.
Which is the game I've been playing.
The cat game.
The cat game?
I like the cat game.
What does Brinks think of the cat game?
Oh, Brinks loves the cat game.
That's what does she like get weirdly excited by it? Because Miko is like the moment now it's got to the point where when I turn the PS5 on and the beep happens, she gets into position to watch the cat.
She's like, oh, the cat's popping up.
Yeah.
So Brinks, well, first off, if you actually want to see Brinks react to the cat game, you should go check out our video review of Stray, where she makes a surprise cameo at the end. Where she's like batting out the TV, which is really cute. She only actually paid attention to the opening. Where they're all
where there's a bunch of cats.
Where there's a bunch of other cats and it's like really bright, and she was like, "Whoa, what?" The second like it got into the actual Undercity, she kind of stopped paying attention as much.
Where the fuck's all the cats?
Like her attention span got lost. But then I had to like replay the opening to like capture something for the review. And immediately got interested again. Just like that particular section, she was like crazy interested in.
I think what triggers it for a lot of cats is the butterfly moment where they see the butterfly land on the cat.
Oh yeah, no, she is all about like any sort of like bugs or anything like on a screen. Freaks out.
So Miko, the moment I turn it on, she's watching the entire time.
Oh,
like she's like glued to the screen. She's watching. She'll like sit on the edge of the couch and watch, and then she'll jump down and go and sit right in front of the TV,
in front of it. Maybe sometimes jump up.
Yep. And like she tries to nuzzle the other cats. As well. And sometimes if I like walk the cat off the screen, she'll go round the back of the TV to look for the cat. I'm like,
yes. Yeah. Brinks does that too, where she'll look around and be like, "What's going on?" Versus
so
cat.
Cute.
Aww.
I did an interview on CNN this morning. About Miko and playing Stray.
What? What?
Yeah,
how did that happen?
I have no.
Why are we just hearing about this?
I woke up and there was like a producer for CNN being like, "Hey, do you have time to do an interview about your cat and Stray?"
Is there a recording of this anywhere?
How did they know about you?
Because I tweeted a video of Miko playing.
Oh, and did that video like blow up?
That one went viral. Yeah, it was one of the first like cats playing Stray videos.
I didn't realize.
Everyone ripped my content off.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize yours went viral.
Yeah, and they hit me up and were like, "Do you want to talk about it?" And I was like, "Okay, I guess." I was like, "I should probably do this because I'm making like cat-based mainstream media stuff like my thing because obviously Kiki went viral with the Donald Trump tweet.
Sure.
So I was like, I could just ride the coattails of another cat, sure. And they were like, okay, do you want to bring the cat up? And I was like, that's a roll of the dice. I was like, I can pick her up for sure. But whether she sticks around is another question altogether. So I picked her up and put her in front of the camera. I cradled her like a baby. And she sat there for a good 2 or 3 minutes while I did this interview, just looking around.
Good, so polite.
And then eventually was like, fuck this. And then just like squirming and just like ran away. I was like, nah. And I was like, all right, relax, chill. But she loves it. I'm like not that far in because I stopped playing it. I'm like, I'm going to make some progress in this game. And then she jumps in front of the TV and I just start like playing with the cat to play with her.
Oh.
So she's like, I've like done I just got the robot. Like robot companion.
B12,
not far at all then.
Not far at all. And like, but she loves it. Like, it's her favorite game. My cat has a very obvious favorite game. But like, I used to play like I have like a little laser beam thing she used to chase around.
Oh yeah.
And like, she behaves the same way as when that's on. She's like properly invested in it and following it around. So I think I'm gonna use that as her kind of like new treat toy thing.
Aww.
Turn it on and she's like, and she watches it. But that game is good.
It's really good.
It's really fun. Yeah.
Okay, I was a bit worried just like looking at the game where I'm like, oh, I really hope this isn't one of those where it's like, oh, the game is fine, but the fact that like you can play as a cat is like what is selling the experience of the game.
It's more that like they utilize being a cat very effectively to make fun the traversal and the puzzles like feel fun and fresh.
The traversal is Assassin's Creed, by the way.
Oh yeah, where you like hold X and you just auto do.
Very Assassin's Creed Unity.
Yeah,
very.
It is very much that. But also you can like pace your jump so you can like it's not just hold it, you can like tap it.
I was always a little weirded out. I'm like, why are they calling this like an open world platformer? Like you're not actually platforming, like you're just
kind of
you're just aiming at a spot and you're pressing the button and the cat makes the jump for you.
But what it is it has like two styles of levels. It'll have these more like linear focus levels, and then it has like 3 hubs, areas that you go throughout, and those hub areas are a little more like free form, like, oh, I can wander around and there's like, collectibles to find and puzzles to solve
and areas to find. Like you might wander into like a sewer grate or something like that, or a tunnel, and be like, oh, there's a whole different place over here.
I don't know, it feels like one of those things where like every open world game now is like, oh yeah, and we're an open world RPG. I'm like, are you though?
I mean, I still wouldn't call it open world. I do think that's kind of a weird...
I'm more issued with the fact that they're like, it's a platform. I'm like, no, it's not. You're not actually platforming.
I would say you are in this game.
Yeah.
I'd say you definitely are in this game for sure.
But you're platforming in the way like Assassin's Creed platforming, kind of more.
Listen, if Assassin's Creed
can you miss a jump though? Can you like jump off the ledge purposely?
No.
Like, I feel like that's a core concept of a platformer game. Yeah. Maybe I'm just too old school. When it
Sounds like you're being a platformer snob.
I guess so.
Just let the cats live. And
I don't even know why I'm fighting for it. I usually don't even like playing platformers.
Yeah. But like, it is like fairly basic to play, but like it does a lot of good world building.
Yeah.
And like environmental storytelling is super good in it as well. Like wandering around, you get a good sense of what has happened over time. And it's very charming, like top to bottom.
100%.
It's definitely on my list after the game that I'm playing that I can't talk about.
Like, it's not a difficult game, and I never found any of the puzzles too challenging, but I think it, like you said, is just like so much fun, and like it's so well made that it's just like I'm having a pleasant time playing this. And yeah, like, I mean, like, being a cat's fucking adorable. Like, you can walk around and you can like scratch on all the carpets, and you can fuck up sofas.
You can walk on keyboards.
You can walk on keyboards. You can knock down
people who are sleeping.
You can knock down paint cans.
Which I suddenly understand why it's satisfying for cats to do that. Because now every time I see something in that game on the edge, I'm like, I'm knocking that down.
Yeah.
So you're never going to yell at your cat ever again.
Thankfully, Miko doesn't knock stuff off ledges. Like she likes to hit things just to see what happens. Like Kurt was with her the other day and trying to take a week ago and trying to take a video of her, and she was like, I'm gonna punch this camera. And she just straight up punched the camera. Which is cute. Like, she's more of like a boxer than I'm gonna slap stuff off things, which is cute.
Yeah.
But good game.
Good game. Fun story. Just enough. I feel like it just enough world building to get you intrigued, but doesn't bog you down in like too much. Also, I think the game is like took it 5.5 hours, which was, let me tell you, like that. Playing that and then also playing Escape Academy in the same weekend, it was just like this very satisfying, like back to back, like starting and finishing a game in like one sitting and being like. It's like when you're checking off a bunch of things on like a to-do list, you're just like, oh yeah, this is.
And what I love about them is like it's high production value short games, which is something that has been missing. It's basically the AA market again. Which is something that has been really missing for a really long time, because games became like, we're very expensive, and because we're very expensive, we're fucking long as shit. And it's like, okay, I don't want to play this game stretched out for all this time.
You could just say Assassin's Creed.
Yes, Assassin's Creed are like the biggest and most egregious. Like,
I can't believe that franchise went from Assassin's Creed 2, which is like 8 to 10 hours.
I will happily say 80% of Assassin's Creed games are boring, and the other 20% are great.
That hurts me to the very depths of my soul.
I say that as someone who loved Assassin's Creed for a really long time and still wants it to be good, and Ubisoft is like got fucking 3 of them in the works, but like there's so much fluff in those games now, and they're so like tedious in a lot of ways.
Not only do they have that many games in the works, one of them is one that's like, oh, this is the Assassin's Creed that'll never end. It will just keep adding to it, and it will just evolve.
But it's like what Tam said. It's the amount of content versus like how much fun all of it is. Like if they were to keep making an Assassin's Creed that's always updating, but it's just like, but each thing they add is just like this very good bite size, like everything's great, I'd be like way more into it, right?
It's kind of Destiny, right? Like Destiny keeps going and going and going, and from what I hear, it's not always banger after banger, but like they put out an expansion or a bit of content, and it's usually good.
Yeah. No. They have hit a point in that game where every time they update it, it feels good and substantial. You're right; it's not always perfect, and there's certain elements of it, but they have. as opposed to like, I feel like every time they keep updating that game, it just gets better, and they're shaving off of like the excess in a way that Assassin's Creed is like the opposite problem. Yeah, they just keep adding more bloat to it every time.
Yeah. And well, there's that one Assassin's Creed game that's supposedly a classical Assassin's Creed game, like a stealth focus.
But I think they're still trying to release it this year. I don't know if that's going to happen because it's July, and we haven't really heard.
I think Ubisoft is like a big event that's supposed to be happening in August or something like that.
I just don't know. I really want to play I really want to get into another Assassin's Creed game, but if it's a 70-100 hour epic again, I probably won't play it all the way through. I'll maybe play a few hours and move on. I want to be able to play an Assassin's Creed game from start to finish again and feel like, oh, there's a good character in there, good story. And the last character I was like really invested in was Bayek, and like Cassandra's great and all that, but I'm like, she's in a game that goes on for way too long and is from the outset boring for a really long time. Like, I
feel like she would have been so much better if they didn't have to balance her personality against Alexios, where it's like these two people need to have the save storyline, even though they're completely
Some of my favorite
people.
Assassin's Creed games have been like the DLC story packs they do, like
focused.
The first DLC for Origins, the
Mummy one.
Oh, the Mummy one is the second one. The first one where Bayek just has like, where it's just him as like an assassin, and it's like a 8-hour experience where he's like, you go and hunt this person, and then this person, and this person, and then there's a final boss, and then like, and then that's it. And I'm like,
what's the other one? The
Freedom Cry. That's the one from Black Flag, where you play as, I forget the name of the guy.
Adewale.
Yes,
Adewale,
and that's a great little standalone thing where you're like, here's this guy, you already know who he is, he's just gonna have his own little adventure.
It's so frustrating because
fantastic.
Ubisoft is clearly very good at making short and sweet Assassin's Creed experiences, but they just seem to keep making their development teams out, like, for one reason or another, of being forced to make these tedious really long,
or even like, you know, Far Cry Blood Dragon's another good example where it's like, ooh, I think I kind of like it when Far Cry is just like a short little 5-hour game rather than like Far Cry 6. I didn't finish that game.
I never finished
I
Far
got
Cry
a
6.
third of the way through that game. I beat like one map of the 3 giant sections, and they're like, okay, now you got to do this 2 more times.
That was the easiest one.
And that was the easiest and smallest one. And I said, I'm actually good. Like, I got my fill.
I think Ubisoft makes the most exhausting games in the industry right now.
But it's also so weird because
every game is like that. Like, they put out a Ghost Recon game, and you're like, oh god.
Like, their design team, like, of the world, especially for Assassin's Creed, is almost second to none. Like, their ability to make a lifelike historical setting is so good. I'm like, you're wasting this talent because you create this amazing world, and then you fill it with so many boring things.
And
then it's so weird because they do the Discovery Tour thing where it's like, and now we're gonna come around and like show you this world, and I'm like, this is so fascinating and interesting. And there's almost a game, you know, for Valhalla, it's like you can play as like different people of like different casts, and there's different stories tied to each
in Discovery.
Discovery. So it's almost like another game within itself that is
that's like
more interesting than Valhalla at times.
Viking simulator, kind of. That's fascinating.
It's like you could play as a church person, or you could play as a peasant, or like a Viking, and it's like depending on who you are, like different characters in the world will react to you differently.
What really makes me sad is like they never realized the vision of the first Assassin's Creed, which is they moved on to 2, but 2 was a much bigger game, almost immediately. It became like a big open world, whereas I don't think open world was what they were going for in a major way in the first one. It was like connected areas, right? Because anything in between
because it was kind of like, you're at the castle, you get your mission, you go to the place, and then it's like this self-contained area where you're like, you need to find out info on your target and like where he's going to be, and then how you're going to actually kill him. And it's like, okay, you've completed, go back to the castle, get your next assignment.
Like, the evolution of that is like Hitman. Like that's like what,
which is what I thought they were going for with Unity and Syndicate with their black box missions, but no one liked Unity and Syndicate, so I guess Ubisoft was like,
Syndicate is great. Syndicate is great, and Unity is okay, but Unity was also buggy as hell. But like the fact that they didn't take another crack at the original vision for Assassin's Creed, it's such a shame. I hope that one of the 3 games is a straight up like back to basics. Let's create a small area that's incredibly dense, and you can do things like the social stealth again, and do also like actual assassination missions again, because like the open world element has taken the assassination part of it and just turned it into like a Looney Tunes adventure wacky bullshit thing where it's like, I'm gonna roll up with my massive axe and like just smack you in the head and then run off into any random direction and never stop running, because you will never catch me.
You don't have to do stealth if the punishment is that people are going to spot you, but you're so strong that you're going to win the fight. Like in Assassin's Creed 1, if you broke stealth, it's like Altair like sucked at fighting.
Well, it was like a big deal. I remember like there's like a real groundedness to that game where it's like you really wanted to plan it out. And I remember like when you get caught, you're like, oh shit. It was like a big deal trying to like run away and escape.
And it was because you were in a smaller environment and there were so many enemy guards and everyone was baiting you up at the same time as well. So it was like, I don't have a lot of places to hide. And like trying to break line of sight and find like hay bale or whatever, or just some social like hiding point when there's an enemy around most corners, gave it attention that was like, I need to really observe my environment and be careful with my movements. And once it does, if I screw it up, I'm on the back foot. Whereas in all these modern games, it's like, you're never on the back foot. Like Ezio onwards, it was like, everyone get in a circle and I'll murder you one by one.
Remember all those YouTube videos of like people being like playing as Connor and killing like 200 guards in like 16 minutes? And
or like, Valhalla, wherever, where you're like, literally,
Eivor's so strong.
Well, Eivor, you're literally performing like Viking sieges, and I'm like, sure, that fulfills the Viking fantasy, but there's nothing assassin-y about this.
Yeah, that's what I hate. Like the assassin part of it has really fallen.
I was so excited for Valhalla because it's like it takes place very close to Assassin's Creed 1. Like right before that, I'm like, oh, I would love the idea of like a Viking learning like midway through the campaign. It's like, you know what, sometimes just approaching a problem head on just is not the way to go.
Yeah, and
it was just going to take like a stealth turn like right at some point. Just never happened.
Such a shame.
I will say, I don't know if you've played it, but they did try the social stealth thing again at one point in Assassin's Creed Liberation, which I thought was really fascinating because they're like, oh, what if you were a black woman who was light-skinned enough to like not pass, but like be like, oh, you're kind of like, you're the good, quote, the good type of black person. So it's like, so you could pretend to be a slave, or you could pretend to be like a noblewoman, and people would treat you differently. And it kind of played with the fact that it's like, oh, you could be like in a noblewoman guard and then like change into a slave outfit and walk past the same person. They treat you differently.
I forgot
But because
about
they were
that.
like white, they were like, oh, as soon as we see like the slave clothes, we're like, that's just another black. We're not even like looking at the face and noticing like, oh, it's the same person. And it was a really interesting concept that they just
it's the idea of your character blending into the environment they're in. Like in other Assassin's Creed games, at no point does like Eivor blend into their environment. They're just fucking running around with an axe, chopping people in half.
I think the game, the sad thing is like modern Assassin's Creed like saw The Witcher and were like, let's be like that, when what they should have looked at was their own game, Rainbow Six Siege, and been like,
or Hitman.
Like Siege is something that is like completely different, but it's like they looked at what they were making and they were like, what if we scaled down and made it more dense, more like destructible, more focused, more detailed.
And they made a PvP.
And they made a PvP game out of it, And it was like really, really cool because like that level of detail was just unexpected from it. I would love them to kind of like go back to that and be like, let's make a small city, really make it intense. Look at all this technology we've come up with to make massive worlds. Just shrink that down into like a small area where we make it super dense, super populated, and there's all these cool things that you can do, and we tell a tight story. It's never going to happen. But like, I'm just sick of like going outside of a main city area and then running across fucking empty fields for like an hour. And it's just like, oh.
I'm also amazed with the direction that Ubisoft's gone in with like, everything must be a service game. This is the future, so we're going to do it. That they never were like, you know what, Assassin's Creed future is just, we're going to bring back the multiplayer, and that's just going to be a game that we update over time with new characters and new maps.
I guess it just never did well enough for them to go in that direction. But man, I played so much of that in Brotherhood.
I've always wondered though, like in the same vein that like I'm not sure Siege multiplayer would work as well as if it had been like tacked on as the multiplayer to some other single player like Tom Clancy Rainbow Six game. So I'm like, if there was just an Assassin's Creed game where it's like it's just all multiplayer. Yeah. There's no single player campaign attached to it at all. Like,
you know what? I can see that actually maybe happening just because it seems like Ubisoft is trying to throw like every type of like multiplayer live service game at the wall and see what sticks. Like they've got
and at this point,
Skull and Bones. They've got X Defiant. Like they're just trying everything.
They even mention X Defiant in there.
Because people did not like that game when they announced it.
And they're making so many Assassin's Creed games, but it's just hilarious. But like, they are making so many fucking Assassin's Creed games that they're gonna accidentally make one that someone actually wants. Like they're like, we're making 1 trillion Assassin's Creed games, and one of them will be like, thank you, or like, this is what we asked for. So I imagine that at some point they're gonna be like, we've got a smaller Assassin's Creed here that's a little more detailed and isn't as big, and you can complete it and takes place in Japan, and everyone's gonna be like, "Hey, you didn't mean to do this, but you did
the thing that we've asked for since Assassin's Creed 2."
Yeah.
Paladin Killer in the Giant Bomb chat says, "My favorite parts of the modern AC games have been the tightly packed areas like fortresses, etc., that you need to stealth and slay your way through.
Yeah,
but spending 10 minutes on a horseback to get there is a bore. That's the thing.
Yeah, and it's also one of those things. It's not like social stealth in the fortress. So I also like those parts where you're like just like jumping from like rooftop to rooftop and like sniping people with a bow and like doing the air assassination, dragging the body into a hay bale. But it's not social stealth. It's more like, oh, the second someone spots me, it's like, all right, it's combat fighting time.
Yeah, that's
it's
more
not like social stuff where it's like, oh, I'm hiding in the crowd.
Totally, that's a more like strategic. You're taking out this base. Although as much fun as I did have with that in like Odyssey, I also did it like 20 times and then was like, I've now stopped having fun with this. But I remember the first like couple times I did it, I was really into it.
One of the DLCs was just that over and over again. Like, and it was.
The thing about it is like when you put stealth into bigger games, you kind of dilute the mechanicals side of it.
Sure.
And generally, what happens is most of the time, in my experience, most of the time you effectively design towards action more than stealth, because you know that like in most scenarios, it's going to devolve into that. And so like the stealth parts of Assassin's Creed games, modern ones, even in like stuff like the fortresses, aren't very good. They're not very developed. They don't feel modern at all. They feel quite archaic. And they all feel like they're pushing towards that moment where it all pops off and they're like, oh, this is, you roll with the punches. Just like, no. Other than Metal Gear Solid 5, which is the only, like, I feel like pure stealth game in an open world scenario. But how does
I always wanted Assassin's Creed to copy, like, Metal Gear Solid 5 and do the whole thing where it's like, oh, if you, like, attack a base in a certain way, like, and you come back later, they'll have prepared defenses based on how you came at them the first time. I was like, God, this is so fucking cool.
PS5 has like, it focuses, eventually, you're in an open world like Afghanistan, but eventually you are stumbling upon a small encampment everywhere. Yeah. So it's always like a closed, designed area, as opposed to like, you're in the open world, do some stealth, and it's like, what do you mean do some stealth? There's a tree and fucking one half a building and 20 enemies.
Which is why in 3, or maybe it was 4, but in one of them they're like, and now there are bushes that if you like go into, your character will automatically crouch and stealth in.
Yeah, I think that was 3 out of that. Yeah.
Because they're like, man, we're outside of, there's no like cities here. How do the people stealth?
Yeah, I think like Phantom Pain was just, it gave you so many tools to work with that it felt like it left it up to you to decide how to do it. Or like Assassin's Creed, it's very much like, see that highlighted thing? You can hide in that highlighted thing.
Yeah, do the thing in the highlighted thing.
There's a very obvious path.
I don't know if Ubisoft will ever change. Like, aren't Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla the 3 like best-selling
That's the thing.
Assassin's
I mean,
Creed
we're
games of all time?
Clearly, people enjoy them. We're saying all this,
like,
but
more power to you. But I don't understand. Like, I just do not have it.
I do actually really like Odyssey and somewhat Valhalla, but like I understand where people are like, there's so much boring. I'm like, yeah. I didn't have to,
because like I'm a capital G gamer, and I'm like, I should care about these games, and I should want to play these games, especially as someone with a history with them. And yet every time they announce one, I feel like the life is drained from me, because I'm like, I'm never gonna play that more than a couple of hours, because you've announced another open world one, so I know like 80% of the content is going to be uninteresting to me. And
the moment I knew that Valhalla was going to be a bit like that there wasn't going to be like anything to do or look at between places was when I was reviewing it, and I noticed like, oh, there's a button you press that when you get on your horse or in your longboat, if you press it, it will just automatically go to the waypoint that you've set for it. So I'm like, I would set the waypoint to like the next main mission and just like hold down the A button, and like the horse would just take off, and then I would just be able to take out my phone and look at Twitter for 5 minutes
do that
while the horse was just going all the way. And I'm like, this
like,
is an indication that there's not enough exciting things to do.
Red Dead did that, but like Red Dead also had a lot of things happening along the way. You'd go into like the auto traversal for the horse, and eventually like 2 minutes into it, you'd hear someone be like, help me, and you're like,
yeah,
oh,
exactly,
cool,
yeah.
And like and there's other games that have done it as well. I think Ghost of Tsushima has a bit of that as well.
Sure.
I think you can auto kind of like traverse in that game.
I also think the difference is like both Red Dead and Ghost for me have like a mood to like riding around where it just like creates like a sense of like place and atmosphere that I've never quite gotten with Assassin's Creed. Like it clearly wants to go with that, and I think I felt a little bit of that in Origins, but I also feel like
Origins feels very well researched. Like they'd have like the theme of Egypt down very well. Yeah.
But it was definitely like, I'm gonna turn the HUD off. I'm just gonna kind of like let this game sweep me up. But
you're right, actually. Like when I think about the way Red Dead moves or like Ghost of Tsushima, I think of like a mood and ambience to it.
Yeah.
And when I think about Assassin's Creed, all I hear is the sound of foot hitting the ground running.
Yeah.
And I have the similar thing for Metal Gear, but like the reason I remember that is because the sound of Snake moving in the open world is like so satisfying, and the way he moves is so satisfying. Like that sound of his gear like brushing up against itself and the wind as he's running, it feels that. Whereas Assassin's Creed, I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I don't remember anything between any of these main missions.
Ubisoft just wants to make a Witcher game, and I'm just like, just make a fantasy game. I know that they are like, look, the Assassin's Creed name sells. If we just put it on anything, it's gonna. Yeah. So, but I'm like, you clearly just want to make The Witcher. You've given magical powers to your protagonist. Just make a fantasy
that is true.
game.
Yeah, they
like
in the Twitch chat for GameSpot, Node367 says Japan would be cool, or Civil War setting. North is Assassins, South is Templars.
Just the entire South.
Entire South is Templars.
Holy shit!
Wow,
quite something.
I don't think they could get away with that.
Be like, no politics in our game. Here's our Assassin's Creed game where the North is Assassins, South is Templars, and everyone's like, what? But yeah, AC Civil War would be goated.
That would be incredible.
I'll say if it wasn't for the fact that like Red Dead Redemption 2 is already such like a perfect simulation of like the Wild West setting, I've always wanted an Assassin's Creed game that's kind of set like in California or Nevada during like a time period where it's like, look, this is the town, and like you're just kind of told that there's a Templar you have to hunt in here, but you don't know who the person is.
Because my favorite thing about Assassin's Creed games is when they do the weird like you're friends with everyone in history, so you could do like, here's Billy the Kid, and here's like you could just get like all the classic
I can't believe they didn't lean harder into the Ezio created cappuccino moments or latte moments for future things like
that's true. They never really did that.
They did a little bit of it in 3, like, you know, it's like, Connor influenced George Washington to be a good person or something, I guess.
They kind of do it in Syndicate during the World War I section where you're talking to Churchill, and he's like, oh, if you help us, we'll do everything in our power to like make you a huge name in history. And the woman's like, I would just like the right to vote. And he's like, we could also do that too.
You know, that's another one that they teased, but like there is a lot of potential, is like just rip off the Saboteur and just do an Assassin's Creed where you are in a Nazi-occupied city in Europe, and you have to be a stealthy assassin murdering Nazis.
That's a good idea.
That's so good. Or, please take that.
Think about this. Take every assassin character and put them in a Smash Brothers clone. We're more likely to get a Smash Brothers Assassin's Creed game.
I hate it.
Than we are a smaller actual stealth focused game. Zombie Pie in the Giant Bomb chat has we're going to end on this discussion for this Assassin's Creed.
Wait, you want to just talk about Assassin's Creed for the next hour?
We're going to end on this discussion point for Assassin's Creed here. How do we get here from Stray?
I don't know.
Zombie Pie says, look, when you look at the current state of its lore, Assassin's Creed is Western Kingdom Hearts.
Damn.
Is it though?
It's Kingdom Hearts, but for like real world historical figures.
Yeah.
Where it's just like your character just keeps meeting all these different...
Organization 13? Is it 13 or 16?
Yes, 13. They're just the Templars?
They're Templars. He's right.
I don't want to agree with this. I don't want to sully Assassin's Creed with Kingdom Hearts.
Keyblades, yeah, little...
Yep. No.
Okay. Now I'm picturing like the Keyblade, but it's the little assassin
like
blade.
Mickey Mouse is
Unlock Kingdom Hearts with his wrist. Okay, so we can find more allegories. So who would be the Xehanort of
Jesus
of the Assassin's Creed?
So we're into the Assassin's Creed.
Well, the Xehanort, that'd have been Juno, right?
Juno would have been.
Juno was the Xehanort of...
That would make Altair would be King Mickey.
Not
Altair. Ezio would be King Mickey.
Ezio would be King Mickey.
Because he comes back constantly, right? He comes back for like 3 games
damn it,
and they constantly refer to him. Who else is there? There's a bunch of other
I hate
touch points.
Cassandra's the Aqua of King
Aqua,
sure. Because she goes away and then she comes back in the present and she looks the exact same.
Yeah. That's one. Who is the Riku of Assassin's Creed though?
Who's the Riku of Assassin's Creed? Was there ever a character that was like betrayed you and turned out to be the villain?
Lucy. Doesn't you find out that she's eventually a double agent?
She's a double agent.
I hate the way they handled that plot point.
Bad.
It was so bad.
I think they just did not want to pay. Wasn't it Kristen Dunst? Yeah, yes. Kristen Dunst. I don't think they just wanted to pay her.
I think they just. It felt like they were just writing her out of the story, and I really. That is when like my interest in like because I was really into like the weird modern lore stuff of Assassin's Creed. Like it was just weird enough that I was like into it. Yeah. When that happened, I was like. Oh, and then it just went downhill from there.
Node says losing Desmond as an anchor was bad, and I agree with that.
I agree.
Once they lost Desmond, I was like, you weren't doing great things with Desmond, but now you're just like unchained.
I said, do you want me to spoil something about Valhalla for you? Will chat be mad if I spoil something about the end of Assassin's Creed Valhalla? If you care about
the end of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, block your ears because we're about to spoil it.
As I do.
Skip ahead for the next 30 seconds, I guess.
Desmond comes back.
Really?
At the end of Valhalla.
Is he still played by Nolan North?
Yeah.
Wow.
At the end of Valhalla.
How does that work?
What the hell happens?
Yeah.
So
like they found his body and they brought him back to life.
So the new protagonist Layla,
right?
She jacks into this like really advanced animus that it comes to light that the machine that Desmond activated at the end of AC3
how do they expect people to remember that? Like that story was dog shit. How do they remember?
Because they're expecting people like me, Tam, to be playing through all these games.
I played that game. I could not tell you anything Desmond did in that game.
Well, they're saying that Desmond activated the machine, it kept going, and it's now causing, I don't know, to like amplify the sun's rays so much that it's like
global warming.
Essentially, yes. And like the entire world's going to like melt or something like that. So Layla goes into that machine to turn it back on, and when she's in there, she finds the construct of like Desmond, and he like basically reveals he's like, oh, I've been like reading and he becomes the new Juno, where he's like, I've been reading all the timelines and like I've led as many things up to this point as I can. He's like, but I don't know how to get past like this upcoming point in the timeline. It just always ends in failure. And Layla like provides a reason. He's like, if we do this, you're going to be stuck in here with me. And she's like, yeah, but it's totally fine. And so like the two of them
of all the main Assassin's Creed characters
like
now,
and they're like just these computer programs who are like planning the future of, and it's like the end of the Loki show where it's like, and now it's branching into all these times.
Oh my god,
like, that sounds awful.
Jesus Christ, Ubisoft. Okay,
come on, man. Oh, that's been. I don't know what's more upsetting: the Kingdom Hearts analogy, or the fact that Desmond is a weird fucking computer being now that's just plotting.
Made of pure light.
Made of pure light. So he's like Doctor.
So it's one of those things where he's just called Unknown Man. So unless you've played the old Assassin's Creed games, you don't know it's Desmond. He doesn't introduce himself. So it's just the voice and his like face model, like just all bathed in light.
So the only way to tell it is Desmond is it's Nolan North.
Yes.
It's Nolan North, and you're like, wow.
Where I'm like, well, I know who this is.
Okay, I mean,
anyone who's played Assassin's Creed since Assassin's Creed 4 has no idea who this character is.
That's bizarre. All right.
Oh my god.
So anyway, Assassin's Creed is at that point in the story.
Stray's a good game.
Yeah, Stray's pretty cool. I highly recommend it. If you like cats, if you like a good time.
I've been continuing to play Resident Evil. That game went from being okay and kind of fun to being bad very quickly.
Once pretty much the moment after the clock tower fight.
Yeah.
With,
that fight is bad.
That
fight is exceptionally bad.
Like once you reach the point of the game where the game is no longer following the plot line of the original Resident Evil 3.
Yes, the second it does that,
so
it stops being
I started up my stream on Wednesday, and I was like, oh, I'm 5 hours in. I'm probably approaching the lab section, which is the end of every Resident Evil game.
Yep. Gotta have a lab.
I'll just bang this out 3 hours, 4 hours, done. That fight took me an hour.
Really?
Yeah, like genuine, because it's so weird and bad, and like the camera is like it doesn't. You're in an arena. You're in like in front of this clock tower, and there's like a fountain in the middle, or whatever, or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And the Nemesis is huge, and he's constantly running up to you, so the camera is always like swinging low, and so it's just like, oh, okay, I can't see him most of the time. It wants you to run away from him, but then he's running at you, and you can't really dodge him. So he just appears behind you, hits you, and you're like, okay.
Yeah. So I think he has like a one-hit kill move too.
Yeah, he does have one hit kill move. Well, after that, from that point on, you can feel... Actually, you start to feel it when Carlos arrives in RCPD from Resident Evil 2, where you're like, oh, you're stretching this out. You're really stretching this out. And then, like, you go from...
okay, but then it's like...
It's like, it's cool in a way, but then you're like, and then you go do that fight. And, like, the thing about that fight is... I started it and I was like, okay, let me just focus on seeing what he's like. I got to the point very quickly where I could stand in place and dodge every single one of his attacks perfectly. So I was just standing there making a mockery of him. And now it's like fight the guy.
And now it's not a scary game anymore.
And then it's like, and then he does this thing where he's like running around on the thing, and you shoot him down and you just like bullet sponge him for literally minutes at a time. I was like, okay, you're just boring. You're just like drawing it out. And then from there you go into like that weird Carlos section
at the hospital.
At the hospital, and it's literally a maze where every corridor looks the same, and I was just constantly like getting lost. And there's one bit where it's like, here's the key to the locker room, and then there's no part of the map where it says locker room.
I remember not being able to find that locker.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm looking at the key, and I'm like, it says locker room on it, but there's no room in here that's listed as locker room. And then eventually someone in my chat went, I think it's the staff room. I was like, what? Why would I go to the staff room with a locker room key?
Yeah, it's like, it's not awful, but it's just like, it just feels such a step down. Like, there's things I like about the hospital section. Like, I like that
they put the hunters in there after, so it's like, hey, here's an enemy that'll kill you one hit.
Yes, it's tough. I like it in that it's like, okay, it's like you're way more powerful, so I kind of like that they throw a couple one-hit enemies, but the problem is that it just kind of goes back to what we said before, where it's like Resident Evil 2, in my opinion,
incredible.
I think Resident Evil 2 is one of the best Resident Evil games.
I think it's one of the best video games ever made.
Yes, because
not just remake, just best games.
Resident Evil 2 is one of the best games ever made. Resident Evil 2 Remake is 100% like play this game before you die.
Yeah. So, I mean, in my opinion, there are 3 Resident Evil games that fit that category, and that's Resident Evil Remake, Resident Evil 4, and Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Yeah.
And what makes Resident Evil 2 Remake so great is that it took everything about what made Resident Evil 1 Remake amazing and everything that made Resident Evil 4 amazing. Yeah. And before it felt like these are 2 separate franchises in like gameplay style, right? Like these just don't there's pre-Resident Evil 4 and there's post-Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 2 said, fuck that. We're going to fuse the 2 together and make the perfect video game. It's so good. And then Resident Evil 3, they just had to repeat that. And then they didn't.
If I remember correctly, that game was developed concurrently.
Yeah,
and,
I think so.
And like it shows because it's shorter. There's much less
just
depth
one
to
more
it.
year.
And the most bizarre thing is like, hey, we've got this character called a Nemesis. He's designed to stalk you, and they completely biff it.
They did,
and it makes no sense because Mr. X in Resident Evil 2 Remake behaves like Nemesis.
Yes, and then Nemesis behaves like how Mr. X behaved in the original one, where he was just a scripted person. Like they flipped it, and I'm like, why would you do that?
And the idea though of a Nemesis that it's like, oh, it's Mr. X, but he's also like evolving over the course of the campaign. So it's like it's not the same person like stalking you. It's a slightly scarier person over time. That was
what made the original 3 cool. Was like they basically said, hey, that idea with Mr. X and 2, what if we expand upon that? And you're like, perfect. So when they made Mr. X in Remake, it was like, oh my god, if they expand upon this, it'll be amazing.
The first thing that I thought was when I played Resident Evil 2 Remake and Mr. X showed up and was doing all that stuff was like, I cannot wait until they do Resident Evil 3 and they use this for Nemesis. Because I loved 3. Like, I loved the Nemesis part of it. Obviously, it was more contained where it was like he would show up in an area and then would just like stalk you around that area. The evolution of that they've turned into is like he appears, busts through a wall, you run away from him, and almost in every scenario, you put some shutters down. And he gives up.
Yeah, I think there's only one part of the game where he hunts you. I think there's
only one part where he hunts you, and it is, even though that and the rest of it's all scripted,
lasts like 35 seconds.
It's not a very long part, but like versus the original version of 3, where it's like yes, there were scripted parts where he'd show up, but there was also a ton of time where he would just randomly show up, and that does not happen in Remake.
The whole thing where every time you meet him and they run away and put some shutters down is mind-blowing to me because like at the start of that encounter he kicks a building over to come over and
that's true.
Well, there's some fucking shutters here, I guess I can't do anything about that. It's like, are you allergic to shutters? What's going on?
Man,
like,
the opening though of Resident Evil 3 Remake, where it like simply shifts and like you're Jill just like running.
It's a great sequence.
Great fucking.
Yeah, opening. The whole opening of that game is fantastic in my opinion.
Yeah, but I've reached the point where I'm like, this is boring now. That whole boss fight was like really tedious, and then the next section after it, I was like, oh, this is boring.
It's left me in such a weird spot for Resident Evil 4 Remake because it's like, man, Resident Evil 2 Remake is probably my favorite survival horror game that I've ever played. And Resident Evil 3 Remake, it's not the worst, but it's very low, very close, like on my list. And I'm like, well, I assume they won't fuck up Resident Evil 4 Remake. So they can't because it's Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, but I mean, it depends what they go with it. Like
in the GameSpot chat, Twitch chat, Node367 says, "Do the shortcomings of RE3 Remake worry you about
a little
Resident
bit
Evil 4 or future remakes?"
Maybe, but I mean,
not so much that I think it's going to be bad, but just like
I do remember that they were going in one like there was like. A shift at one point. It was kind of leaked that it was like, oh, they were working on it, but then like there were some like differences over how to go. I think Resident Evil 3 kind of spooked them a little bit, and they were like, ooh, okay, we should like be a little more careful.
So I've heard that game is very different from the original Resident Evil 4.
Do you think it looks they changed like? Without spoiling, like the last area of that game to make it like fit a little bit more with the rest.
Change that, shorten the castle a little bit. Maybe you could ditch the mine stuff in between. If I'm being honest,
make Salazar shorter.
Yes, increasingly shorter every time.
He's like 2.5 feet tall.
He's even shorter.
Well, the thing that's cool is that the little bit they've shown. They are taking a weird amount of influence from Resident Evil 3.5, which I find fascinating. Like, Leon's jacket is the jacket in that unused version of 4, which I think is really interesting. But then it's like stuff like, oh, he's holding the flashlight, which is a thing from not only Resident Evil 3.5, but also Resident Evil 2. So they're kind of leaning, it seems like they're leaning more into like a slower pace that Resident Evil 2 has, which to me... I'm all for because I think I've gone back and forth about this.
The like part that will get up to the start of the story because Resident Evil 4 kind of just drops you.
Well, they also clearly showed sequences where like Ashley's running away, and I'm like, ooh, maybe they're gonna have more extended moments where you play as Ashley. That would be more interesting than.
Please make her less annoying. Please make her less annoying.
Ada. Or something like that.
I hope she's still voiced by Sandy Cheeks. I think that'd be funny.
That'd be pretty funny.
I feel like this game... I feel like Resident Evil 3 Remake feels like a game where they were like, just do your best. We don't really care about it. Whereas Resident Evil 2 was the one that they were like, yeah, this is the one we care about. Resident Evil 3.
Well, 2 was like a passion project. Yeah, like exactly. They had to. They've been trying to make that forever. Yeah. They had the We Did It shirt. Like, it was a huge deal. Like, they had to really fight for that game.
Yeah, and I think Resident Evil 4 is like Resident Evil 2, where they're like, this is too big to fail. We cannot fuck this up. Like, if we're not releasing this until this thing is as good as Resident Evil 2 Remake.
And I think
if it comes out and it's a Resident Evil 3 style thing, I don't think that's possible.
They do not want to release that game to 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 reviews.
That game needs to be like 8s, 9s, and 10s for them.
And I've gone back and forth on like how faithful do I want it to be to the original, and I think I finally landed on I would like it to be different in the sense that, like, obviously, like, I think a lot of it can be the same, but I wouldn't mind if they went for a slower, more horror tone over like the goofy tone. Like, as much as I'm gonna miss like, where's everyone going? Bingo? Like, I just don't think it fits with that version of Leon. And if they want to have this, like, you know, remake continuity that they're kind of trying to do, like, I'm fine with them playing it a little more straight, a little more serious, not being quite as goofy with it. Obviously, I still want some goofy stuff.
Definitely.
Like,
it'll be very interesting to see how the overall perception of this game is, because Resident Evil isn't exactly Dead Space, but like they're very similar, and the remakes kind of bring them a little bit more in line with how
they straight up admitted that they were inspired by Dead Space for
and like we're about to get a shit ton of Dead Space games. Like so it's like, will Resident Evil 4 remake be near the top of like the Dead Space games that we have, or will it be
it'll probably be more gory,
middle of the road? Because I'm like, so we'll have Callisto Protocol, and assuming Dead Space Remake still is coming out early 2023, we'll have that, and then we'll have Resident Evil 4
that's
remake.
all. That's going to be 3 games in a row. Wow. That'll be interesting.
I'm excited for more Resident Evil. I just hope it's more along the lines of Resident Evil 2 Remake and less along the lines of Resident Evil 3 Remake.
Totally. Yeah. 100%.
And then remake Code Veronica.
Code Veronica should be 100%. If they're not,
they really should remake Code Veronica.
Oh God, I'm like convinced it's going to be Code Veronica next.
That deserves that was supposed to be 3.
Like, and also like it's the lesser known of them all. Like the Resident Evil fans like us care about Code Veronica, and we played
also
it.
That story just needs to be remade because some of the voice acting and like plot lines of it are just not good.
They could improve that. That's also the game where Resident Evil shifted into a very schlocky kind of.
But in the same way that like Resident Evil 1 remake kind of like takes some of the goofier, cheesier aspects of the original Resident Evil and
does it a lot better.
Does it a lot better. I'm like, you could do that for Code Veronica.
Totally.
Well, there you have it. The future of Resident Evil remains to be seen, but we hope it's a good one. Wow, we went on for a really long time.
We talked about Assassin's Creed for way too long.
That's okay.
It's time to end the show.
Is it?
It is. Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's like 4:30.
Holy shit.
We thought this. Let's peek behind the curtains for everyone. We have an empty production sheet here where we were like, what are we going to talk about? Let's figure it out. And then we talked at length about 2 games.
Do we want to take the question of the week? Like just that one question.
I think we should save that for the next one.
Oh, okay.
I think we should save it for the next one.
I was going to say
we'll have a new question.
Yeah, we'll have a new question every week, though. That's the thing.
I think we have to compound it.
Okay.
I would love to, but I have other things.
Okay, I understand. But I guess for the audience, the lovely mod Maria, aka Serious Business, does a question of the week every week over on our Discord. So if you're not in the Discord and you want to get involved in the conversation, hang out with some fun people, talk about fun hypotheticals, that's one of the cool things you can do over in our Discord.
Yeah. We'll make sure that we do the next one, and also maybe do this one on the next episode.
I mean, next week's episode should be a fun special one.
Why?
Because Jake's gonna be here.
The Podfather.
I was looking at my calendar like,
what's going on next week?
What's happening?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, nothing should be happening.
It'll be a 5-person podcast as well. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
That'll be cool. So maybe we'll have to start having 5-person podcasts regularly.
Oh yeah.
Which works out for us because we're always looking for extra stuff to talk about. So there you have it. Thank you for watching another live and also recorded episode of the GameSpot After Dark podcast. My brain was like, Giant Bomb After Dark podcast. I was like, no.
Jeff's Bizarre After Dark
podcast. My brain is just shutting down. It's like, you gotta go, man. As we said at the top of the show, if you are watching live on twitch.tv/GameSpot, please do hit the follow button. And if you're listening on podcast services after the fact, please do rate and review us. It helps massively. We're going to be back for another episode at the same time next week. In the meantime, Jean-Luc, where you at? What you up to? Where can people find you?
You can find me at Twitter at Jean-Luc Seipke. Working on some cool stuff in the background, editing some fun videos. A show that should be launching pretty soon, I think. I won't say anything more because I don't think that information is out there, but that should be cool. And then, I also edit Jeff's Bizarre Adventure, which I don't really talk much about, but yeah, I did that, and that's fun. This week's episode was a really fun one.
Yeah, check it out. Jordan, what about you?
Folks can find me over at Twitter at JMRemay, getting everything right about Apex Legends. I'm so happy that my theory is going to be proven right based on the tease that Respawn released today. I am working on some other stuff that I'll be able to talk about next week.
Okay.
But yeah.
Lovely. And I'm on everywhere at TamorH. That's Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, except for TikTok where I'm Demolition 10 for some reason. But I'm continuing to stream Resident Evil. I think I'm going to try and finish it on my next stream, which is either going to be today or when you're listening to it or on Monday. We'll figure that out. And then I'm working on a bunch of things in the background. Jeff's Bizarre Adventure. I was on Voice Mode Dump Truck, so you can check the latest episode of that out. And I was on Bombcast this week as well. And then working on a few features in the background with other people that hopefully you'll see again very soon. And we will see you next week. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.